Bret Bielema's attention to detail on things that I think is
Yeah.
fascinating, that I just don't think a lot of coaches are working on. And he is not afraid to take 90 seconds or 2.5 minutes to go over something that he fully has either seen in a game, seen on TV in a game, or experienced himself as a coach, that we need to practice this because I'm not going to have you guys try to rep this in a game, live scenario, late in a game, and having never worked on it in practice. And so that he takes time to do those things. And I am fascinated by coaches that are like that take time out of practice to simulate game simulation things that I wouldn't even think to try to figure out in practice. I don't think a majority of the coaches do that, and Bret Bielema's meticulous nature of practice really shows itself if you're there for the entire 2 hours.
And I think that is very indicative of the time that I sat across from him and interviewed him one on one. He reminded me more of a business executive than he did a football coach. Very organized, down to the minute. Bret gives you this feeling like if he's scratching his nose with his left hand at 10:02 in the morning, that there was a to-do list, and at 10:02 he was supposed to use his left hand to scratch his nose. And from somebody who comes from corporate America, he was much more executive looking, which is what I expect out of a head coach. And of course, we've seen that in the pros with Bill Belichick, with whom he worked. And I think that is probably not a random act. And the other thing is as a guy who ran a corporate training department for sales, we always expected that you wouldn't do it in a call if you hadn't practiced it before. And I totally agree with his theory on you really don't want to rep something the first time in a game. Now, we all know sometimes that has to happen. I get it. But if you can find those moments to give the guys a little bit of guidance, that pays off in the course of a game when maybe you're able to adjust when your opposing team may not do that. So good for him in that.
Here's the other thing you noticed in practice, and I'm not going to get into specifics, but um, I think a lot of coaches do this, but I don't know if a lot of them do this to the extent that Bret Bielema does, 3 weeks prior to the season starts. They're already implementing game plans for Eastern. They're already implementing game plans for Kansas. They're already implementing game plans for Central Michigan. There was a 2-minute drill where Luke Altmaier is doing, if you're watching the video, he's doing this with his head and his helmet, which means I can't, he's looking over at Barry Lenny on the sidelines. I can't hear you. You're not coming in. Well, Luke knew immediately. So Luke just, I know this. Luke just ran a play because he didn't know what he was supposed to call. They're not signaling, whatever. I'm just going to run a play. I'm going to run one of our key plays. And then after the play was over, he knew immediately where to go to swap out his helmet. Now, I think the coaches did this intentionally. I will always believe this is that
Mm-hmm.
Barry just stopped talking because he wanted Luke to know what to do when his helmet goes out. They have five of them on offense, five of them on defense. There's this little box. Luke went in there. He flipped his helmet off. He put on a new helmet and he got out there. And suddenly now Barry Lenny's back talking to him again. But again, it's just another thing that Bret Bielema and Barry Lunny wanted them to work on in a 2-minute drill situation that might come up in a game. So um, I think that that's brilliant.
Yeah, corporately, you would say perfect preparation prevents poor performance, and that certainly is where he seems to be. And sometimes I guess he gets caught in preconceived notions of him based on eras gone past in Wisconsin, et cetera. And we all grow over the years, but executive demeanor is one of the areas I thought he excelled at from my time
Mm-hmm.
with him.